Love. I'm an editorial board member of blackcommentator.com, which is an online news magazine dealing with issues affecting the black community. We currently have a monthly readership of around 300,000, and my Color of Law column appears regularly on Black Commentator. I wrote an article in the October 18th, 2007 edition of Black Commentator entitled "Photos Bolster Claims of Mumia's Innocence and Unfair Trial." The piece was also published in the Philadelphia Independent Media Center, as well as the San Francisco Bay View, which is a national newspaper. In the article, I discussed the new photos that Hans has been discussing, and I also analyzed the larger implications of the photos for the case of Mumia, the problem of racism and unfairness in the criminal justice system, as well as the disturbing application of the death penalty in the United States. To be sure, these photos are very important because they suggest that someone, presumably the police, tampered with evidence at the crime scene, removed evidence, switched evidence. For what reason, we can only guess, perhaps out of incompetence, perhaps in order to subvert justice and bring about a particular desired outcome. We don't know. But we would be misled if we were to believe that these photos are actually the only evidence pointing to a setup, pointing to Mumia's innocence and the need for a new trial. I would argue that these photos, when viewed in combination with the other problems with this case, bolster an already convincing argument that official misconduct took place. Just to give a few examples, the prosecutor in the case had a history of excluding African American jurors and struck 10 of 14 black potential jurors, but only 5 of 25 white potential jurors. In a sworn statement, a court stenographer said she overheard the trial judge, Albert Sabo, saying that he would help the prosecution, quote, fry the nigger. For 12 years, the prosecution withheld evidence that the driver's license of a third man was in Officer Faulkner's pocket. Defense witnesses who testified that they saw someone other than Mumia kill Faulkner were intimidated. And lastly, 5 of the 7 judges on the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, the body which denied Mumia's appeal, received campaign contributions from the Fraternal Order of Police. The Fraternal Order of Police is the primary group that has advocated for Mumia's execution, and they essentially characterize him as an unrepentant cop killer. And I think it should also be noted that in 1981, the year that Mumia was arrested, 5 men were framed by the Philadelphia Police Department for murder and spent years upon years in prison before they were exonerated. I think that the case of Mumia abu-jamal sheds light on the racial inequities in the law. It's worth noting that Pennsylvania's criminal justice system is fair and unequal. An Associated Press investigation 2000 revealed that blacks in Pennsylvania are more likely to receive prison sentences or longer ones than white defendants who are accused of the same crimes. Further, black incarceration is 14 times that of whites in Pennsylvania. That's the greatest disparity in the nation. We're not talking about a southern state, we're talking about a northern state. And African Americans, who make up 10% of the population in Pennsylvania, are 56% of the inmates. And of course, most of them are coming from this city that we're in right now, Philadelphia. And of course, we can't discuss the case of Mumia without looking at the issue of the death penalty, given that he is the most well-known, perhaps, the most well-known death row inmate in America, if not the world. His case demonstrates all that is wrong with the application of the death penalty. It's a system that was not meant to be fixed because it was not meant to be fair and equal. In just. Executions, I would argue, are a violation of the Eighth Amendment's prohibition on cruel and unusual punishment. Whether they take the form of beheading, stoning, gassing, electric chair, lethal injection, what have you. And like lynching, the death penalty is barbaric, arbitrary, and infected with racism because it places an emphasis on expediency over due process. In fact, capital punishment is lynching brought into the court system in an effort to legitimize the practice. It's no accident that 90% of the executions that take place in the South, where Jim Crow lynchings and racial violence were the norm. It should also not be so surprising that the most important factor which determines whether someone receives a death penalty is the race of the victim. Right. Over the past 30 years, an overwhelming majority of people executed in the United States were convicted of killing a white victim, 80%, according to Amnesty International. African Americans, however, are about half of murder victims. And 1/3 of America's death row is black. And according to a study published by the Journal of Empirical Legal Studies in March 2004, a black person convicted of murdering a white victim is 2.5 times as likely to be sentenced to death as a white person convicted of murdering a white victim. And there are other inherent flaws in capital punishment. Each locality has its own standards. Each prosecutor decides whether to seek the death penalty. Only 2% of those eligible for death actually receive a death sentence. Co-defendants may receive different sentences for the same crime, one receiving death, the other one jail time. And it should be noted that 95% of death row prisoners cannot afford an attorney, must take a court-appointed attorney, who in many cases is overworked, underpaid, perhaps lacks experience, or in some extreme cases, like a case in Texas, falls asleep in court. And since 1973, according to Amnesty International and the Death Penalty Information Center, 124 people in 25 states have been released from death row because they were wrongfully convicted. And we will never know how many innocent people were sent to their deaths. We'll never know. Moreover, the death penalty offends international human rights standards. Only 6 countries in the world carry out 91% of the world's executions. That's China, Iran, Pakistan, Iraq, Sudan, United States. Indeed, you are judged by the company you keep. And we should note that Amnesty International and many others in the international community have called for a new trial for Mumia. And also they condemn capital punishment. In conclusion, I would like to invoke the words of Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis, who said, I quote, "Publicity is justly commended as a remedy for social and industrial diseases. Sunlight is said to be the best of disinfectants. Electric light the most efficient policeman." Unquote. I believe that journalism is at its best when it seeks to get to the bottom line of the matter, not simply regurgitate the official line and then close off discussion. Okay. This is what is necessary in democracy and in a free society. As we know in this country, accepting as fact everything that's told to us and refusing to dig deeper costs lives, whether it's in the senseless war in Iraq or here at home. Obviously, we are here to discuss the photos that demand a new trial for Mumia. But this is also bigger than Mumia, because Mumia's case shines light on the official corruption and racism in America's justice system and the judicial form of lynching that we know as the death penalty. Thank you.